The story opens beneath a molten Arizona sky, the air shimmering above the dust-choked streets of Red Mesa, a frontier town carved from heat and greed. The Whitmore Ranch lies just beyond the mesas, a sea of grass turned to gold in the evening sun. To outsiders, it's a picture of prosperity. To Elena Whitmore, it's a gilded cage. At 23, Elena has learned that beauty and wealth offer little safety in a land ruled by men with guns and ambition. Her late father, Thomas Whitmore, built the ranch from nothing, taming wild mustangs and carving water from rock. But when he died suddenly, his second wife's son, Caleb Whitmore, Elena's stepbrother, took over the books, the cattle, and eventually the men. What he couldn't take was Elena's claim, her father's will, hidden somewhere on the property, which named her rightful heir. Caleb knew the law wasn't on his side, but violence was. And he had a plan. It started small. Whispered accusations that Elena met with Apache scouts near the ridges, that she passed on information about cattle drives and wagon routes. A few of the ranch hands swore they'd seen her riding alone toward the canyons, her face covered. Soon the rumor spread that Elena Whitmore was a traitor, feeding raiders for gold. By the time she realized what he'd done, it was too late. The town had already turned. Marshal Briggs, a lawman who kept one hand on his badge and the other in Caleb's pocket, issued a warrant for her arrest. Spying for the Apache, he told the saloon crowd and spat into the dirt. Hanging's too kind for a snake like that. Elena ran that night. She saddled her father's old Mustang, Ash, and fled under moonlight. Her satchel packed with the few things she owned, a Bible, a silver locket, and a folded letter written in her father's hand, the one proof of her inheritance she hadn't yet shown anyone. She didn't know where to go, only that she had to keep moving before sunrise. By dawn, her horse's hooves echoed down the dry riverbed that led into the painted desert, a place most men feared to cross. There were stories of bandits, of ghosts, of Apache war parties that vanished and reappeared like shadows. Elena rode anyway because the world behind her wanted her dead. Back in town, Caleb stood on the balcony of the Whitmore house, a cigar glowing between his fingers. He watched the horizon with cold satisfaction. She won't last a day out there, he said. But the man beside him, the tracker he had hired, didn't smile. Talon Greyhawk was half Apache, half white. The settlers feared him as a ghost of two worlds. He'd once been a scout for the army, but had left after seeing too much blood spill for the wrong reasons. His eyes were dark as volcanic glass, and his silence carried the weight of violence barely restrained. Caleb needed someone like him, someone who could hunt through desert and canyon without leaving tracks. She's got a 2-day head start, Caleb said. Alive if possible, dead if not. I want her body brought back so the law can see justice done. Talon took the gold coins offered but didn't nod. His gaze drifted to the east where the desert opened into endless nothing. You're sure she's guilty? He asked quietly. Caleb sneered. Of stealing and treason both. Don't lose your conscience, Indian. She's not worth the dust on your boots. Without answering, Talon pocketed the coins and walked away. He didn't ride immediately. He sat for a long while by the outskirts of town, watching the vultures circle above the rocks. Something about the job felt wrong. A woman accused of treason by her own kin. He'd seen that story before, and it always ended the same way. A grave for the innocent, and a toast for the guilty. Still, gold was gold. And survival didn't come free for a man who belonged nowhere. 2 days into the chase, Talon found her tracks. Small, precise hoof prints, a woman's hand in the way she'd tied her horse's reins. He followed them through gullies and across dry creek beds. Once he found her camp, a small fire pit, ashes still warm and the faint scent of lavender soap carried on the wind. She was running scared, but not stupid. She was hiding well. By the third night, the temperature dropped. The desert turned cruel and cold. He found her horse dead at the edge of a ravine, ribs still rising faintly, saddle torn from a fall. He scanned the distance and saw no movement, only a scrap of blue fabric tangled in cactus spines. He dismounted, knelt, and touched it. Fine cloth from a woman's dress. Farther down the ravine, he found her. She was half-conscious, her lips cracked from thirst, her dress torn, her locket glinting faintly in the moonlight. For a long moment, he just stood there silent. The order was clear, bring her back, alive or dead. But there was something about her face, pale, proud, and stubborn even in ruin, that struck him like a memory he couldn't name. He lifted her carefully, feeling how light she was, how fragile. She stirred, eyes fluttering open, and whispered hoarsely, "Please, don't let them take me." Talon hesitated. Then he whispered something in Apache under his breath, a prayer or perhaps a promise, and carried her into the canyon, away from the tracks of men. When Elena woke hours later, she saw the fire first. Then the man sitting beside it, silent as stone, his profile carved in shadow. Her wrists were tied with soft leather strips, not tight enough to hurt, but firm enough to stop her from bolting. Panic flooded her. She struggled weakly, whispering, "Who are you? What do you want?" He turned to her, and the firelight caught his face. "Talon Greyhawk," he said simply. She froze. The name hit her like a bullet. She'd heard it whispered in saloons and among soldiers, the tracker who never failed. "You were sent to kill me," she breathed. His expression didn't change. "I was sent to find you." "Then finish it," she said bitterly. "You'll be paid handsomely." Instead of answering, he picked up a canteen and placed it in her hands. "Drink." The water burned her throat, but it was the sweetest pain she'd ever felt. She drank greedily, then looked at him again, confused. He wasn't gloating, wasn't cruel. His gaze was unreadable, but there was no hatred in it, only thought. "You should have stayed in town," he said at last. "Running made you guilty." "I'm guilty of nothing but surviving," she snapped. "My brother wants me dead so he can take what's mine." Talon didn't respond, but a muscle in his jaw shifted. Lies were easy to spot. He'd been fed enough of them in both worlds, and something in her voice rang true. Outside, the desert wind howled through the canyon, scattering sparks. Elena huddled closer to the fire, her strength gone. Talon stood and looked toward the stars, his compass, his law, his silence. He could ride back to town and collect his pay, but even as he thought it, he knew he wouldn't. Something about her face in the firelight, fierce and afraid all at once, had undone his certainty. When dawn broke, he untied her wrists and handed her a strip of dried meat. "Eat," he said. She looked at him warily. "So, what happens now?" He met her gaze, steady and calm. "Now," he said, "we see who's lying." And with that, he turned east toward the rising sun, where the desert would soon burn again. Elena followed because she had no choice, but also because, for the first time since her father's death, she felt a strange, fragile thing stirring inside her, the feeling that maybe she wasn't entirely alone. The sun climbed mercilessly over the jagged mesas, throwing knives of light across the sand. Elena walked behind Talon through a landscape that seemed made of fire, crimson dust, blistered stone, and an endless sky that offered no mercy. Her wrists were free now, yet she felt more bound than ever. To survival, to the silent man ahead of her, to the uncertain path he'd chosen for them both. They hadn't spoken much since dawn. Talon's movements were precise, deliberate. He walked as though listening to the earth itself, the crunch of gravel underfoot, the whistle of wind between canyon walls, the distant cry of a hawk. To Elena, the silence was unbearable. It gave too much room for the thoughts she'd tried to outrun. Caleb's cold eyes, the word traitor whispered behind her, the fear that no matter how far she fled, his reach would find her. When they finally stopped near a half-dried spring, she couldn't hold it in any longer. "You're taking me back, aren't you?" she demanded. Her voice was cracked from thirst, but her pride was intact. Talon didn't answer. He knelt beside the mud, cupped a handful of water, and offered it to her. Only when she refused did he say quietly, "If I wanted to take you back, you'd already be there." The words unsettled her more than any threat could have. She studied him as he filled their canteens, a man carved from contradictions. His hair was black as a raven's wing, braided loosely down his back. A white scar cut across his collarbone, half hidden by the leather of his vest. He moved with the caution of someone who trusted nothing, not even the ground beneath him. That night they camped inside a narrow canyon where the walls glowed red in the firelight. Elena sat apart watching him work. He roasted a rabbit without speaking, his expression unreadable. Finally, she broke the silence. "Why help me? There's gold waiting for you in Red Mesa." Talon's eyes flicked toward her, sharp as flint. "I've taken gold for worse jobs," he admitted. "But I've never delivered a woman to a hanging when I knew she didn't deserve it." Her heart stuttered. "You don't know that." He tossed a twig into the fire. "I know your brother's kind. Men who smile while others bleed, The fire crackled between them, and for a long while neither spoke. When the wind rose, it carried sand through the canyon like whispers. Elena wrapped her shawl tighter and watched him stare into the flames as though reading something there she couldn't see. 2 days later, danger proved him right. They'd crossed into a stretch of broken land known as the Devil's Mouth, a labyrinth of cliffs where echoes played tricks on the ears. Talon halted suddenly, raising a hand. Elena froze, her pulse leaping. From the shadows ahead came the jingle of spurs and the scent of gun oil. Voices, men, bounty hunters. Caleb's reach had stretched farther than she feared. 3 riders emerged, rifles drawn. The leader, a scarred man with a crooked hat, called out, "Step aside, half-breed. The ladies wanted back in Red Mesa. Alive if possible, but we ain't picky." Talon didn't move. His hand hovered near his belt knife, calm, deliberate. "She's under my protection," he said. His voice was soft but carried a weight that made even the wind hesitate. The bounty hunter laughed. "Protection? You're her executioner, ain't you?" Talon's gaze hardened. Not anymore. The fight that followed was swift, brutal, and silent. Talon moved like a storm given shape, one moment still, the next all motion and fury. When it was over, 2 men lay sprawled in the dust. The third fled into the rocks, bleeding. Elena stood frozen, trembling, the echo of gunfire still ringing in her ears. He turned to her, blood streaking his cheek where a bullet had grazed him. "You all right?" She nodded, though her voice failed her. She couldn't look away from him, the way he breathed, steady despite the chaos, the way his hands shook only after the danger had passed. Later, when the firelight painted the canyon gold again, she whispered, "You killed for me." He glanced up. "I killed to stay alive. You were simply beside me." "But you could have left me," she pressed. "You didn't." For a heartbeat, she thought he wouldn't answer. Then he said, almost to himself, "Because I've seen innocent blood spilled for men's lies. Once is enough." He didn't elaborate, and she didn't ask, but she understood. Pain, recognized pain. From that night on, something between them shifted. Elena stopped calling him Mr. Greyhawk. He stopped treating her like a burden. When they rode, he taught her how to read the land, how to find shade by the color of the sand, how to track water by the flight of birds. She learned quickly, surprising him with her stubbornness. When she stumbled, she refused his hand. When she succeeded, he gave no praise, only the faintest nod. Yet she saw the ghost of a smile once when she managed to hit a tin can with his revolver. It felt like victory. One evening, they found shelter in the abandoned remains of an old Spanish mission. The adobe walls were cracked, the roof half gone, but it offered refuge from the wind. Inside, a faded cross hung above the altar, its shadow long and crooked. Elena knelt there, whispering a prayer she hadn't dared speak in weeks. Talon watched from the doorway, arms folded. When she finished, she asked softly, "Do you ever pray?" He shook his head. "My people speak to the wind, not to walls." "Then what do you ask of it?" "Nothing," he said. "The wind owes no man answers." His words should have sounded cold, but instead they felt honest, like stone after rain. For the first time, she understood that his silence wasn't emptiness. It was armor. And beneath it, there was a man who carried more loss than he'd ever confess. That night, sleep came slowly. A coyote howled somewhere beyond the hills, and she found herself whispering, "Talon." He stirred. "Do you believe I'll live through this?" He looked over, eyes gleaming in the half-light. "If you listen, yes." "To you?" "To the desert," he said. "It will try to kill you, but it never lies." His answer shouldn't have comforted her, but somehow it did. By the time a week had passed, the woman who'd fled Red Mesa in fear was no longer the same. Her face was browned by sun, her once soft hands roughened by rope and reins. When she caught her reflection in a pool of still water, she hardly recognized herself. Talon saw the change too. He didn't say it, but when she rode beside him instead of behind, his glance lingered with something unspoken. Respect, perhaps, or the beginnings of something he didn't dare name. One morning, as they packed camp, Elena caught him tracing the bead bracelet around his wrist, a small strand of turquoise and bone. She asked whose it was. "My mother's," he said quietly. "She was white like you. She thought the world could forgive what it doesn't understand." What happened to her? They taught her it wouldn't. The simplicity of the statement chilled her more than any tale could have. In that moment, she understood why he'd saved her. Not because she reminded him of weakness, but because she represented a chance to defy history itself. When the next sunset came, the canyon filled with amber light. Talon sat sharpening his knife. Elena gathered brush for the fire. The silence between them was no longer awkward, it was alive, humming with things unsaid. Finally, she asked the question that had haunted her since the day he found her. "What will you do when they stop coming after me?" He paused, blade gleaming. "Doesn't matter," he said. "I don't stay anywhere long. And me?" He looked up then, his eyes locking on hers. "Do you want me to leave you?" The question hit her harder than any bullet. For a long time she couldn't answer. Then softly she said, "No." The fire cracked between them, sparks rising into the dark. Talon turned away first, but his voice carried low and certain. "Then stay close. The desert hasn't finished testing us yet." And though neither of them said it aloud, they both knew something irrevocable had begun. Not born of safety or comfort, but of the raw, dangerous trust forged only in survival. That night, as she drifted toward sleep, Elena realized that the man who had been hired to make her disappear had already done so, in a different way. The frightened heiress of Red Mesa was gone. In her place stood a woman who belonged nowhere but beside him. By the time another week bled into the desert, Elena and Talon had crossed miles of wilderness few dared enter. The world had become reduced to essentials: sunrise, hunger, water, and one another. The days blurred together in heat and silence, yet at night something unspoken always passed between them. A glance, a brush of hands as they shared food, the slow understanding that danger had braided their fates together. One afternoon, thunder rolled across the plains like distant drums. Talon tilted his head, listening. "Storm's coming," he murmured. Elena shaded her eyes. The sky to the north was bruised purple, the kind of storm that didn't bring rain so much as fury. "We'll never outrun it," she said. "We don't need to," he replied. "We'll hide in the bones of the earth." He led her to a cavern carved into a canyon wall, a dark, yawning mouth that smelled of damp stone. They barely got inside before the heavens split open. Rain poured down in silver sheets, hissing against the fire Talon built just inside the entrance. The lightning lit his face in flashes. The hard lines of his jaw, the calm precision of his movements. The quiet mastery of a man who had survived too long to panic now. Elena huddled near the fire, drenched, trembling not from cold but from the force of the storm outside. Thunder cracked so loud it seemed the sky itself might shatter. She watched him move about the cave, his shirt clinging to his skin, the tattooed lines on his arms glistening like inked lightning. "You've seen storms like this before?" she asked to break the silence. He nodded. "The desert remembers every one of them. It never forgets what the sky does to it." His calm steadied her, though the air between them hummed with something new, an awareness, sharp and electric. He sat beside her finally, close enough that the heat from his body chased away the cold. The firelight flickered between them, painting their faces in golden shadow. "I used to love storms," she said quietly. "When I was a child, my father would light candles and tell me they were angels riding across the clouds. And now? Now I hear them as guns," she admitted. He didn't smile, but his eyes softened. "Then let them pass. Tomorrow they'll be gone and we'll still be here." Outside, the rain thickened into sheets, the sound rising like drums of war. A gust of wind swept through the cave, snuffing half the fire. Talon moved to rebuild it, but she stopped him with a hand on his arm. "Leave it," she said. "It's enough." They sat together in the dim half-light. He didn't move away, and neither did she. The world beyond the cave vanished, swallowed by storm. Time slowed. The silence stretched, heavy with words neither dared speak. Finally, she broke it. "Talon, if you take me back to Red Mesa, I'll hang." He looked at her, his expression unreadable. "I told you I won't." "Then what will you do with me?" she whispered. "You can't keep me running forever." His answer came like a blade, quiet but sharp. "There's one way to make you vanish for good." Her pulse quickened. "How?" His eyes caught the firelight. "If you become mine, not as a prisoner, as wife." For a moment she thought she'd misheard him. "Your wife?" He didn't flinch. "A woman who bears my name can't be claimed by another man. Not in Apache lands. Not by Caleb, not by anyone." The suggestion stunned her. She searched his face, expecting mockery, but there was none. Only steady conviction. "You would marry me to protect me?" she asked softly. His gaze held hers. "Yes, but not only for that." The fire popped, scattering embers between them. She saw the truth in his eyes then, the kind of truth that couldn't be hidden. He wasn't a man of many words, but what he didn't say hung heavier than speech. He wanted her. Needed her, not as a possession, but as someone who saw him beyond bloodlines and names. Elena's heart pounded. For weeks she had feared him, then trusted him, then depended on him. Now in the half-dark she realized she also desired him. The way his voice lowered when he spoke her name. The way his hand brushed hers when he passed her food. The way he looked at her, not like prey, but like something sacred he couldn't touch without breaking. She whispered, "And if I say yes?" "Then the world will lose you," he said. "But I will not." Lightning cracked again, illuminating the cave like a cathedral. The storm outside reached its peak, roaring as if the heavens themselves bore witness. She didn't think. She only moved closer, her hand rising to his cheek. The touch startled him. He froze, breath catching. His skin was warm under her fingers, the faint stubble rough against her palm. "You saved my life," she murmured. He caught her wrist gently, his thumb brushing the pulse there. "You made me remember mine." The distance between them dissolved. He kissed her, slowly, reverently, as if unsure the world would allow it. When they parted, her forehead rested against his chest, and she could feel his heart hammering like a drum beneath her ear. By dawn, the storm had spent itself. The air smelled of wet sage and renewal. Outside, the desert glistened under pale gold light. Talon and Elena stood at the cave's mouth, watching the river of mist curl between the rocks. "We'll need a witness," he said. "For what?" "For our promise." He led her through the canyons to a small dwelling built into the rock, Old Mary's home, a weathered woman who had once been healer and midwife for both settlers and tribes. She looked at them with knowing eyes. "I see," she said without being told. "Two souls bound by more than survival." Old Mary performed the ceremony with simple words and a small fire. She gave Elena a bracelet woven of beads and feathers, once meant for Talon's mother. "You wear his world now," the old woman said. "Walk it with pride." There was no preacher, no papers, no town to witness. Only the wind through the canyons, the flicker of the flame, and two hands joining in quiet defiance of everything that sought to destroy them. That night, they camped under the open sky. The desert was peaceful again, the stars vast and cold above. Talon lay beside her, his hand tracing circles on her skin, the touch both protective and tender. "You're free now," he whispered. Elena turned toward him, eyes shining. "No," she said softly. "I'm finally found." He smiled faintly, a rare, fleeting thing that seemed to break the night open. They stayed like that, wrapped in quiet, until dawn painted the horizon. The next morning brought no ceremony, no applause. They simply moved on, two riders against the endless sky. But the world had changed around them. She no longer feared the sound of thunder, and he no longer rode with the loneliness of a man between two worlds. From that day forward, Elena Whitmore was gone. In her place lived Elena Greyhawk, wife of the man she had once feared, bound to him not by desperation but by choice. As they rode deeper into the wild, Talon's words from the night before echoed in her mind. "The desert tries to kill you, but it never lies." She smiled to herself because the desert had not killed her. It had remade her, and though danger still waited beyond the horizon for now, under that boundless western sky, she felt something she had thought forever lost. Home. The fourth act opens with the sky burning orange over the high desert, signaling both the end of their flight and the start of something far more dangerous. Truth. Taza and Evelyn reach his tribe's hidden canyon, deep in Apache land. The people there greet him as a warrior returned from death, for word had spread that he rode on a killing mission for the white men and would not return. But when he arrives with a pale woman at his side, their joy turns to tension. The elders murmur. Some lift their weapons. In their eyes, Evelyn is a curse, a trespasser. Taza dismounts, calm but unyielding. "She is under my protection," he says in Apache. His voice cuts through the murmuring like thunder. From within the circle steps Naiche, the tribe's war chief and Taza's older cousin, a man who has known war longer than peace. He looks Evelyn up and down with cold disdain. "You bring the white man's blood into our home," he growls. "You bring her here while our people starve from their greed." Taza doesn't flinch. I bring her because they sent me to kill her. Because she knows their corruption. Because if she dies, they win again. Nietzsche stares at him for a long moment, then spits in the dust. Then she will prove herself or she will not leave this place alive. Evelyn understands little of the language, but she reads the intent in their faces. She stands beside Taza anyway, her chin lifted, heart pounding. For the first time, she realizes this isn't just about survival anymore. This is about belonging somewhere. That night, while the tribe feasts around small fires, Taza brings Evelyn water and a blanket woven from yucca fiber. She sits apart from the others, feeling their eyes on her, hearing whispers she cannot translate. When she finally speaks, her voice is fragile but steady. I shouldn't be here, she says. I don't belong. Taza crouches beside her, the firelight tracing the planes of his face. You belong nowhere because they took it from you, he replies. Here, you can earn it back. But you must walk through fire first, she meets his eyes. Will you walk with me? There is a heartbeat of silence. Then he nods once. Always. Over the next days, Evelyn works beside the women, grinding corn, fetching water, learning their ways. Some mock her. Others, especially the elder mother Anoki, watch her with quiet curiosity. Anoki sees something in her, the same fierce will that once defined Taza's mother. One evening, as a red sky stretches across the horizon, Evelyn helps Anoki prepare herbal poultices for the wounded. When she touches a young boy's arm, the boy flinches at her pale skin. But Evelyn only smiles and hums a song, one her mother used to sing before fever took her. Slowly the boy relaxes. The elder notices. She has a healer's heart, Anoki tells Taza later. If the people see that, they will forgive her blood. But not everyone wants forgiveness. Nietzsche watches from the shadows, his rage simmering. He sees the way Taza looks at her, the quiet tenderness, the unspoken protection. You risk our people for her, he warns. She will bring the soldiers here, and when she does, it will be your name cursed. Taza answers coldly. If they come, I will face them. 3 days later, his words are tested. At dawn, a scout returns. The soldiers are less than a day away, led by Sheriff Kane, Evelyn's would-be suitor and the man who paid for her death. He has sworn to burn every Apache village until he finds her body. Panic ripples through the tribe. Some demand that Taza give her up. Others look to him for leadership. He stands in the center of the camp, the rising sun framing him in gold. She came here because they lied, he tells them. Because their greed has no end. If we give her to them, they will still come for our land, our children, our fire. But if we stand, Nietzsche interrupts with a snarl. You would fight for a white woman while our people bleed? I would fight for truth, Taza thunders. And she is part of that truth now. For a moment, silence reigns. Then slowly, one by one, the younger warriors step forward to stand beside him. Evelyn watches, tears in her eyes, not because he defended her, but because she realizes he's chosen her fate over his own safety. That night, as the wind howls through the canyon, she goes to him. The fire between them burns low, casting their faces in flickering amber. You could still leave, she whispers. Take your people deeper into the mountains. I'll go to them. I'll tell them you're innocent. Taza steps closer, his shadow merging with hers. And if they kill you, then I'll finally finish what they started, she says softly. For a long moment, neither moves. Then Taza's hand rises, trembling slightly, and touches her cheek. They wanted you gone from this world, he says. But when I look at you, I see the part of it worth saving. Their lips meet, not in passion, but in quiet defiance. The desert seems to hold its breath. For the first time, Evelyn feels not like a fugitive or a burden, but a woman truly seen. Outside, the red sky fades to black. Tomorrow will bring blood and fire. But tonight, beneath that endless western sky, love has already chosen its side. The fifth and final act begins with the sound of thunder, not from the sky, but from hooves. Sheriff Kane's men approach at dawn, their rifles gleaming, banners snapping in the cold wind. The Apache camp stands ready. Spears glint in the early light. Taza mounts his horse, bow across his back, knife at his belt. Evelyn stands behind him, her dress replaced by a simple doe-skin tunic Anoki had given her, a symbol of her place among them. Stay with the women, Taza tells her. If we fall, ride north. Find the river. Don't look back, but Evelyn shakes her head. No, I won't run again. The soldiers ride into the canyon mouth, their voices echoing off the stone. Sheriff Kane calls out, hand her over and maybe I'll leave a few of you alive. Taza steps forward, Come take her. The battle erupts like lightning. Gunfire dust the screams of horses. The Apache fight with precision and fury. Every movement a testament to survival itself. Evelyn crouches behind the rocks, tending to the wounded with shaking hands, ignoring the bullets snapping through the air. When she sees Kane raising his rifle toward Taza, she doesn't think. She acts. She runs forward, her voice raw. Kane, it's me you want. He spins, his face twisted in triumph. You should have stayed dead, girl. But before he can fire, Taza's arrow pierces his chest. Kane falls, eyes wide, disbelief frozen on his face. Silence falls, broken only by the wind. The soldiers, leaderless, retreat into the dust. The Apache stand victorious, but the cost is heavy. Taza collapses to one knee, blood seeping from his shoulder. Evelyn rushes to him, pressing her hands against the wound. Don't you dare die, she whispers fiercely. Not after everything. He smiles faintly. You command even the wind now. Days pass. The wounded heal. The tribe rebuilds. When Taza finally wakes, the first thing he sees is Evelyn sitting beside him, her hair unbound, her eyes tired but alight. Still here, she says softly. He nods. Still here, the elders gather. The tribe's balance must be restored. The woman's place made clear. Anoki steps forward, her voice strong. This woman saved our sons. She has bled for our people. She belongs. Nietzsche says nothing, his pride wounded but his respect earned. He bows his head slightly to Taza, the first true sign of peace. That evening, as the fire burns low, Taza approaches Evelyn. He holds out a small necklace, turquoise set in silver, bound with deer hide. It is not a ring, he says, but it means the same. She blinks back tears. You mean? He nods once. My people say love is not words. It is what survives when the world burns. The ceremony is simple, beneath the canyon's edge under a sky full of stars. No priest, no vows, just two souls bound by choice and survival. Anoki places the necklace around Evelyn's neck. The tribe chants softly, a rhythm that seems to echo the desert's heart. Taza looks at her, voice low. They sent me to make you disappear, he says. Instead, I found everything I thought I'd lost. Evelyn smiles through her tears. Then let's never disappear again. As dawn rises over the land, the two stand side by side. Not captor and captive, not Apache and white, but husband and wife. The wind carries their laughter down the canyon, across the desert and into legend. And long after both are gone, the story remains, whispered by campfires carved in stone, carried by the sand. They hired the Apache to make her disappear, but he made her his wife instead.